crime, housing, parental notification, and more. Major changes are coming to California in the way of new bills passed in the state legislature and signed into law by Governor Gavin Newsom. Sophia Bolag is a politics reporter for the San Francisco Chronicle. She's based in Sacramento. She joins me now to break down some of these new laws. Good to have you. Thanks for being with us tonight, Sophia.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, we're going to kick things off talking about a new law that takes effect tomorrow that deals with car break-ins. This most impacts car burglars. We can consider this to be called the No More Locked Door Loophole Law. What does this do?
Yeah, essentially, this is one of about 11 laws that were passed in the last year in response to public outrage over retail theft and other types of crime. And what this law does is it essentially eliminate a requirement that had previously been in law that required that victims prove that their cars had been locked in order to press burglary charges. So this law is intended to make it easier for people to press charges. There's less that they have to prove in order to press charges for car burglary.
All right, so word to the wise, if you're going to break into a car, you know, you're going to be prosecuted for it, and you don't have to. If you're the victim, this makes it a lot easier to get some justice. I like that. Okay, the second law, this is known as the daylighting law, and this will impact all of us when it comes to where we park. What's the daylighting law?
Yeah, and this law is actually technically already in effect, but what's going to start tomorrow is cities can start fining people who violate it. So daylighting is when you park a little ways back from a crosswalk. The idea is that if people are parked too close to a crosswalk, other cars can't see when someone enters the crosswalk. And so this law is intended to sort of reduce pedestrian injuries and fatalities. And basically, cities can start fining people who park too close to a crosswalk. So be careful when you're parking in the new year. Make sure you leave some space so people can see people in the crosswalk.
Yeah, and 20 feet is about the size of a large SUV, if you can keep that in mind. But this also, it should be noted that the crosswalk doesn't necessarily have to be marked either.
Right, yeah. This applies to both marked and unmarked crosswalks. Anywhere, pedestrians could reasonably, legally be crossing the street and have the right of way.
Okay, and this next law that takes effect tomorrow is probably the most controversial. I mean, we've been covering it here in Southern California as it relates to a couple of school districts, the Chino Valley School District and the Temecula Valley School District. We're calling this one the parental notification ban. This has to do with teachers who will not be able to so-called out students, so teachers cannot tell a parent if their student wants to be known as a different pronoun. Can you expand on this?
Yeah, so it doesn't actually ban teachers from telling students' parents if they decide to start using different pronouns in class, or they ask to use a different name or otherwise identify as transgender. But it does prohibit some of the policies in the school districts you've mentioned that essentially required teachers to tell a student's parents if they start identifying as a different gender. And so it has been very controversial, and school districts are, already, fighting it, ones that do want to pass these requirements that teachers do tell parents if students start identifying as a different gender. But starting January 1st, school districts will be prohibited from requiring teachers to do so.
Yeah, and I think the fight continues, though, within those school districts that are already involved in this fight as it relates to this new law. Okay, thank you for clarifying that. The Affordable Housing Enforcement, this essentially gives the Attorney General a whole lot of power when it comes to affordable housing in particular cities, where the AG can now fine cities if they don't make a certain percentage of their housing affordable, right?
Yeah, this is one of a number of different laws that have been passed in recent years that really aim to force cities and counties to approve new housing and penalize those that don't. And so it will allow the Attorney General to impose fines on cities that violate certain state housing laws by not approving or not planning for enough housing in their jurisdictions.
Yeah, and we've seen this fight too locally in Huntington Beach and also the city of Norwalk. You know about that, of course. Lastly,
Absolutely.
the medical debt that a lot of people have, I think it's about 40% of people have medical debt in the state of California. That's one of the statistics I wrote. This is not going to go against your credit score anymore. Is that right, Sophia?
Yeah, starting next year, tomorrow, credit bureaus won't be allowed to include medical debt in credit scores and credit reports. And so the idea is that that then won't count against people and lower their credit score if they have medical debt.
I think that's a relief to a lot of people, because I think sometimes people would stop short of actually getting the medical care they need because they don't want to inquire the debt, because what it will do to their credit score. You've been a wealth of knowledge for us. We're so glad that you were able to join us. Sophia Bolag from the San Francisco Chronicle, thank you so much for all of your reporting. Keep it up. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you too.
Thanks so much.